Saturday, you may have not noticed, but it was the president's 100th day in office, for those of you not keeping count. The president took several significant steps towards leveling the playing field for American workers and businesses while visiting an Ames factory in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Ames has been making tools in America since before our country's founding. It's an example of the amazing persistence of the American spirit, the type of company that will be able to expand and create new jobs under the president's pro-growth economic agenda. He signed 2 executive orders at Ames that will help keep jobs and wealth in our country. The first fulfilled an executive order of a major campaign promise by directing the Secretary of Commerce to identify every violation and abuse of our trade agreements and to use every measure available under the law to end those abuses. And the second established the Office of Trade Manufacturing Policy, which will be led by Dr. Peter Navarro. This office replaces the National Trade Council and elevates it to a permanent office within the White House, sending an important signal to the world that the United States will no longer tolerate trade cheating while our manufacturing and defense industrial base suffers. He also signed a 3rd executive order over the weekend establishing the American Technology Council, which will be led by Chris Liddell, which is dedicated to modernizing the federal government's information technology so that it works more efficiently and effectively for everyone. And he wrapped up the day speaking to thousands at a rally in Pennsylvania. This weekend, the president also engaged with some of our longtime allies in Southeast Asia who are on the front lines against the fight against ISIS and other forms of terror through calls with the president of the Philippines, the prime minister of Singapore, and the prime minister of Thailand. Today's a start of another big week here. After signing a proclamation on Law Day, he stopped by the Kennedy Garden, where around 100 members of the Independent Community Bankers of America kicked off their Capital Summit. Smaller banks are one of the driving forces behind economic investment and development in our communities, but they've been disproportionately harmed by the dramatic increase in regulation since 2008, declining in number by 30% since 2008. The president's pro-growth agenda, including instituting what he has called a 21st century Glass-Steagall, will allow these banks to spend less time complying with unnecessary requirements, many of which were designed to police much larger entities, and more time infusing their communities and local small businesses with capital. It's also the start of Small Business Week. Today, Ivanka Trump will be participating in a conversation at the United States Institute of Peace with SBA Administrator Linda McMahon. And the Vice President will deliver remarks at the National Small Business Week Awards program later this afternoon. Back to the President's schedule. After speaking with the community bankers members, the President had lunch with Vice President Pence, Secretary of State Tillerson, and Secretary of Defense Mattis, as well as National Security Advisor McMaster, before meeting separately with Secretary Tillerson. I also want to mention this morning that FEMA held a severe weather coordination call to discuss impacts on the remaining threat for continued severe weather across portions of the Southwest to the Mississippi Valley, which has already killed 5 people in Texas. Secretary of Homeland Security Kelly participated on the call, and the White House is in contact with local governments in these affected areas. We'll have those communities in our thoughts and prayers and encourage everyone to follow the directions of their state, tribal, and local officials to stay safe. Finally, let me run down what we're expecting for the president's schedule this week. Tomorrow, he'll present the Commander-in-Chief Trophy to the United States Air Force Academy. Wednesday, the president will host the president of the Palestinian Authority for an official visit. And on Thursday, he'll host a National Day of Prayer event. And as I mentioned last week, he will then attend an event commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Coral Sea aboard the USS Intrepid and meet with the Prime Minister of Australia. I'll continue to update you on the schedule throughout the week. And with that, your questions. Jill.
Thank you very much. So I wanted to go back to the comments that the president made this weekend on Face the Nation on healthcare regarding pre-existing conditions. Mm-hmm. And he has said specifically that the bill he wants to sign would, quote, mandate that pre-existing conditions be covered. Can you talk us through a little bit of what he meant there? Was he referring to something he wants to push to include in the bill? Was he talking about the language that's already in there?
Well, I think both, in the sense that the MacArthur-Meadows amendment ensures that pre-existing existing conditions are continued to be covered. But then obviously as this bill hopefully passes the House this week or whatever it does, and then goes through the Senate and the House, this is an issue that is important to him.
How does he ensure, though, that those people actually are treated affordably? I mean, there was an estimate from AARP that if you were looking just at the high-risk pools, the premiums could be as high as over $25,000 for somebody. What is he doing to ensure that doesn't happen?
So there's two things, and I think he mentioned in the same interview that, just to be clear, right now, under Obamacare, as it collapses on its own weight, people who have pre-existing conditions are really the most vulnerable, because if you have an insurance system that no longer is able to provide care to those who need it, then I think we've talked about this before, you have a card without coverage. So what the president is doing is ensuring going forward, as we attempt to repeal it and replace it, that coverage of pre-existing conditions is at the core of that. So that is something that he has ensured is in the current bill, and will continue to push for to make sure that coming out of the Senate and going to conference is there as well. John.
A couple things for you, Sean, if I could. First of all, what do you say to conservatives who feel like they didn't get a whole lot out of this spending bill? There was no money for the wall, no cuts to sanctuary cities, funding for Planned Parenthood was maintained. What do you say to those conservatives?
Let's take them in order. But I think the president got a lot out of this bill, most specifically $21 billion to help rebuild the military. I think that is something that he was very proud to campaign on and is delivering on. That's probably the biggest thing. With respect to border security, he got $1.52 billion into the current language that's posted. I think that's a significant, and remember, I think people have to keep in context. We're talking about 2017 funding, right? So this is something that most presidents would walk into office and that would have been done. Because the last Congress didn't do this under President Obama, we have an opportunity to get some of the president's priorities infused for the last 5 months of 2017. That's a big step forward, and something that he'll continue to fight for in 2018. When the fiscal year starts, the end of September, we will have an opportunity to really infuse the president's priorities. But I think there's a lot there, and there's also DC school choice was something that we felt very strongly about making sure was back in. There's no Obamacare bailout. There's the coal miners is something that the president felt very strong on making sure they got taken care of. That happened. So there's a lot in this bill that I think of the priorities that he put forward on.
But clearly you had to give up on some things.
No, I mean, I think on the Planned Parenthood thing in particular, but again, remember, this is 2017 funding. This is something that he wouldn't normally even had a shot at because it should have been done. So infusing his priorities in the 2017 budget cycle is actually something that he's been able to have a say in, which is a big deal for the remaining 5 months. The 2018 budget will address those things, but this is a down payment on border security. It's a down payment on his ability to rebuild the military, and repealing and replacing Obamacare will address a lot of the other health care issues.
And the other issue I had, on the pending visit of Duterte from the Philippines, Chris Coons said that the president is giving his stamp of approval to human rights abuses. Governor John Sununu, on the other hand, said this is part of the unpleasant things that presidents have to do. What's the White House's perspective on Duterte and him coming here?
Well, I think it is an opportunity for us to work with countries in that region that can help play a role in diplomatically and economically isolating North Korea. And frankly, the national interests of the United States, the safety of our people and the safety of people in the region are the number one priorities of the president. Mike.
I wanted to ask you about tax deductions. The White House has talked a little bit about that as a way to curb big tax breaks for the rich. Are you looking at any other policy changes when it comes to limiting breaks for the top 1%?
Well, we're at the beginning of this process, but I think you saw from the briefing that was given the other day, the focus on this is really at lower and middle income Americans. The doubling of the standard deduction means that a family of four that is making, right now they're getting a $24,000 deduction, which means in a lot of cases you're going to see a family pay zero taxes at the lower end of the economic scale. That's a big deal for them to really help put more money back in their pocket and help them take care of their family. Trey.
Thanks, Sean. On healthcare, there seems to be a new optimism from the White House. How confident is the president that he will get a healthcare bill passed the House this week?
I think the president has made it clear that he's not instituting a timeline. I've said this before, and I'll continue to say that we feel confident the direction this is going. We see more and more members come on board. A lot of the changes were made make the bill not only better, but garner greater support. So we feel very good about it.
On North Korea, today the president told Bloomberg he was open to meeting with Kim Jong-un. if the conditions were right, how does the president define the right condition to have this meeting?
Well, there's a lot of things that go along with that, and I think that's the key thing. Under the right circumstances was, I believe, the phrase he used, and I think that is something in keeping with consistent with the policy expressed by Secretary Tillerson as well. We've got to see the provocative behavior ratchet down immediately. There's a lot of conditions that I think would have to happen with respect to its behavior, and to show signs of good faith. Clearly, the conditions are not there right now, but I think the president's made it clear, as Secretary Tillerson had the other day, that if the circumstances present themselves, we would be prepared to, but they're clearly not at this time.
Thanks, Sean. Picking up on healthcare, it's believed possibly that you might be down, Republicans down to maybe just a handful of votes away. Here we are at 2 o'clock Monday afternoon. Is this the closest that you think you've gotten? I know you don't want to talk about timelines, but is this as close to maybe getting to that magic 216 number that you've talked about?
Well, sure. We're not going to. Once we get 216, we'll stop counting, and I think the speaker gets that. But as I mentioned to Trey, we're getting closer and closer every day. So I would assume that today we were closer than we were a week ago, but we're not there yet, and that decision is going to be wholly within the speaker, the majority leader, and the whip to let us know when they're going to open that vote up.
And let me ask you about Dodd-Frank. The president just gave an interview in which he said, I am looking at that right now. He goes on to say there's some people that want to go back to the old system, right? So we're going to look at that, meaning potentially breaking up the banks. So breaking up the banks, going back to Glass-Steagall, is that something that he is just looking at, or is that something that is a preference of his at this point?
I think I mentioned it in the opening. He's looking at a 21st century Glass-Steagall. That it's something that we've talked about at the beginning. He mentioned this on the campaign trail. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but it is something that is currently being looked at. Sarah?
Thanks, John. So you're saying that you're not confident that the votes are lined up behind the health care bill. So this morning when Gary Cohn said that the bill was ready to be brought to the floor, did Gary Cohn misspeak?
No, I would never want to get in front of the speaker. That's up to them. We have a good whip count. I think we feel very good about where we are and where it's headed. But ultimately, the speaker and the House leadership determine when to call a vote. I think that we know that when the vote gets called, we'll feel confident that it's going to be able to pass. Zeke?
Thanks, Sean. The president on the campaign trail raised alarm about federal debt and deficits. This spending bill that would get us through the end of the fiscal year doesn't include any of the offsets related that the president requested in this year's budget. Is the president, will the president sign this agreement that does increase the federal deficit?
I think we got a number of the president's priorities included in the CR. When we are at the final point, the president will make a decision. But right now, he's pleased to see the plus up for the military. He's pleased to see a down payment on border security. He's pleased about the DC Opportunity Scholarships. There's a lot that he's pleased in, and I think, again, as I mentioned to John, we're getting a shot at the 2017 funding, which should have been done last year. So
You called for keeping that balance, essentially.
I understand that, and I think that obviously, this is something that required 60 votes in the Senate. We couldn't have our entire way on this, but we're 5 months away from having a 2018 budget, and I think the president's priorities will be reflected much more in that. Annie?
Just a question for Representative. You made comments when asked about pledge freedom. You said that journalists are not exempt from assassination. Did the president know about those comments and about his record of human rights abuses when he extended the invitation for him to visit the White House?
The president gets fully briefed on the leaders that he's speaking to, obviously, but the number one concern of this president is to make sure that we do everything we can to protect our people, and specifically to economically and diplomatically isolate North Korea. And I think when you look at what he is doing in terms of building that coalition of countries in that region to do it, I think this is hopefully going to have. Well, he knows. I'm not going to tell you every single thing that's in his brief, but he's well aware of when he speaks with a leader. He gets briefed on a lot about what they're doing, what they've done. That's all part of the brief. Mara.
Question just about the future of Sebastian Gorka. Can you tell us why he's leaving the White House?
There's no personnel announcement at the time. I have no belief that he is currently leaving the White House. So there's nothing to update you on with respect to that, and we wouldn't comment on personnel matters at this time. Mara.
John, I have a healthcare and an Israel question on healthcare. When the president talks about a guarantee for pre-existing conditions, current law says insurance companies have to sell to people with pre-existing conditions, and they can't charge them more than someone else in that area. Is that the guarantee that the president wants?
So the bill does not remove Obamacare's guaranteed issue requirement.
Right.
That's it. And on the community ratings, the bill would allow states to waive Obamacare's community rating requirement if certain conditions designated to preserve access to coverage from people with pre-existing conditions are met, and there are reduced average premiums, increased enrollment, stabilize the market, stabilize premiums for those with pre-existing. The bottom line is to try to give the states flexibility to actually get that premium down.
Right, but people with pre-existing conditions would continue to get access, but not at the same price as other people.
Well, the idea is actually they would create a high-risk pool. The idea is actually to create a system where it gets the premium down for them as well.
High-risk pools could still charge them much more.
No, but you can't keep saying, you're right. When I say the whole goal of this is to give the states the flexibility to get lower premiums. That's the goal all around, is to make sure that the system that we employ gets it down. John Gizzi. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Thank
problem.
you, Sean. The president turned to Bibi Netanyahu at that press conference and famously said settlements are not helpful. Israel is going to build 15,000 new homes in East Jerusalem. Does he think that Netanyahu is snubbing him?
We're going to have a conversation. I'm sure that we'll continue to have conversations with the prime minister, and so I'm not going to. That'll be something that the president will continue to discuss. John.
Thank you.
Oh, we'll do two Johns.
Okay. Let me go first, John. All right, sound good?
It's quite a negotiation. we may need you.
From the art of the deal.
Thank you, Sean. I wanted to ask about some news the president made this morning in an interview that he conducted with Bloomberg. In that interview, he talked about the possibility of raising gas taxes to pay for infrastructure spending. And of course, the president has put forward the idea of $1 trillion infrastructure spending plan. Can you talk a little bit more about this possibility of raising gas taxes?
Yeah, so what the president said during that interview is that folks from the industry had come to him and expressed to him how the deteriorating roads were affecting their ability to deliver goods and services throughout this country, and that they had expressed a willingness to see something like that as a way to help pay for and repair the roads and bridges, and that he said that he, out of respect, would definitely listen to them and consider it. That's
As it relates to this idea that the gas tax in America hasn't been raised for some time, what makes the president believe that now is the time that Republicans who have been opposed to this idea would be open to this idea?
I think you're missing. Look, he did not express support for it. He expressed that a group that had met with him expressed support with it, and that he, out of respect, would consider their request. That's it. There was no endorsement of it or support for it. He was just relaying what another industry group had shared with him about how to pay for the roads and bridges that need to be repaired, and the impact that deteriorating roads and bridges are having on their ability to operate and to deliver goods and services, and frankly, the cost that it is having on their trucks, on their infrastructure. John Gizzi.
You have not foreclosed this possibility of raising.
No, I think people ask the president all the time, please consider the following policy, and he has an open mind. I mean, there are people on both sides of the aisle, different backgrounds, that come in to see the president and ask him, could you please consider this? Will you keep an open mind on it? And I think that's frankly what the president was doing. John Gizzi.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, John.
And thank you, John.
I have two questions, one foreign policy and one on domestic politics. First, last Wednesday, the Kremlin outlawed the Open Russia movement, the premier opposition group to the ruling regime in Russia, and the following day, security forces were forcibly closing down Open Russia's office in Moscow and other places. Does the administration have a statement on this?
I do not. I would refer you to the State Department.
All right. My second question is, on Sunday, Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, a 14-term veteran of the House, past chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, announced her retirement. Her statement comes on the heels of a similar announcement by Congressman Chaffetz, and before that, only a few weeks ago, Lynn Jenkins of Kansas. That's three respected Republican House members, all calling it quits. Is the president concerned about the number of Republican House members who do not want to be on the ballot next time and are leaving Congress?
No, and I respectfully, I would say that there are two groups of folks. I mean, in the case of Congresswoman Ros-Lehtinen, I think she's been here 35 years, and she just 28. And so she's just decided that it's time to retire. In the case of Congressman Chaffetz, he announced that, that doesn't. I don't think that there's any belief that you have to stay here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. There's always going to be churn between election cycles between members of both parties who decide for a number of reasons to go back home, and I think that's a healthy part of the democracy, and that's frankly something that our framers sought as citizen legislatures. So to some degree that's a healthy part of it, but we feel very confident about where we stand. Jennifer.
Sean, the president opted not to continue Obama's tradition of holding an Easter prayer breakfast, but he is holding a National Day of Prayer event. Was that a scheduling issue, or did he think, what was the thought process there?
I really don't know. I know that we wanted to do this National Prayer Breakfast this Sunday, and I think you're going to see a lot of folks represented. I don't know enough about Obama's thing, how far back it went, but each president's going to have their own traditions, and I think this is one that the president, that morning after you've got the Easter egg roll and there's a lot going on, this is his way of starting a tradition here at this White House to bring faith leaders from a variety of backgrounds here to the White House.
Sean.
Amy.
Thanks, Sean. Back to Glass-Steagall for a second. As you can imagine, the president's comments today are getting a lot of attention on Wall Street. So can we be just very clear about this? Does the president favor breaking up the big banks?
I think he talked about it on the campaign trail, and he's mentioned it before, this idea of a 21st century Glass-Steagall, a modernization of it, and we're not at a point where we're ready to roll out details of that yet. This is something, as the president said in that interview, he is actively looking at options and considering things. We're not at a position to make any announcements on this at this time.
Any steps toward that behind the scenes that we're not aware of?
Well, I mean, he's obviously been briefed by his advisors. Secretary Mnuchin and others have given him ideas and thoughts to ponder. We have nothing to announce at this time. Todd.
Thanks, Sean. So the lack of border wall funding raises a question of just how serious the president is about getting the border wall constructed. Is it not urgent? Is it not an emergency anymore to build this barrier? What is the timetable and deadline that he has in mind?
Well, make no mistake, the wall's going to be built. The president has made it very clear. We have 5 months left in this fiscal year. We're getting $1.52 billion for border security. There's a lot that can be done with that. We've got a lot of things that happen before the wall is built in terms of planning, technology, gates. There's a lot of things that can do to prepare for that wall being constructed. This was a down payment for 2017, and as we get ready for fiscal year 2018, that'll start in the beginning of October. This will be a major priority.
It will be built. Is there a time certain? Is there a deadline by the end of 2018?
That it'll be completed? I know the president wants it done as quick as possible. There have been bids that have been put out. Part of what the Homeland Security Department is reviewing now, or not just the cost, but the timetable for a lot of that. So as we move through the planning phase, that's definitely going to be part of the consideration. But obviously the president wants it done as soon as possible. Jonathan.
Coming back to North Korea, the president didn't just say that he would be open to meeting with Kim Jong-un under the right circumstances. He said he would be honored to meet with him. This is somebody who has starved his own people, somebody that has threatened to destroy the United States. Just last week he put out a video showing the Capitol getting destroyed by North Korean fighters. How could he be honored to meet with Kim Jong-un?
Well, the president understands the threat that North Korea poses, and he will do whatever is necessary under the right circumstances to protect our country from the threat that they pose.
How would that be an honor?
Jonathan, I guess because he is still the head of state, so it is sort of there's a diplomatic piece to this, but the bottom line is the president's going to do what he has to do. Right now, he's building a coalition in the region to isolate North Korea, both economically and diplomatically, to get the threat, to take that threat down. But that is his number one priority right now, is protecting this country and our people.
What did he mean when he called him one smart cookie, or a pretty smart cookie?
Well, I think his point was, he went over this in the interview, that he assumed power at a young age when his father passed away, and there was a lot of potential threats that could have come his way, and he's obviously managed to lead a country forward despite the obvious concerns that we and so many other people have. He is a young person to be leading a country with nuclear weapons, and so That set aside, I think the president recognizes the threat that he posed and is doing everything he can to isolate that threat and to make sure that we bring stability to the region. Margaret.
Sean, on North Korea and then on Philippines. On North Korea, both with the president's comment on Kim Jong-un and what Secretary Tillerson said, you seem to be making the offer that we could have direct talks with North Korea. Who's going to be leading those?
Please. Yeah, I think
The White House?
I think that the key part of the president's statement was under the right circumstances. And that is the key. And those circumstances do not exist now. This is consistent with what Secretary Tillerson said the other day. But I think that if North Korea continues down a degree of provocative behavior, then those circumstances will never be there. But we want to hold out the possibility that if North Korea were ever serious about completely dismantling its nuclear capability and taking away the threat that they pose both to the region and to us, that there's always going to be a possibility of that occurring. That possibility is not there at this time.
Who would lead that? Is that
Well,
the White House or the State
we're not.
Department?
We're so far away from that possibility existing. To start identifying an individual would be highly premature.
Philippines, when you have been asked about President Duterte and his human rights record, you continue to say the effort here is to isolate the Philippines from North Korea, part of this coalition to
Well, to
isolate
also
North Korea.
build a yeah.
Are you suggesting that the Philippines has some sort of inappropriate contact with North Korea? Are you suggesting that we are requesting greater access perhaps to their military bases? What is it exactly?
Well, I think
that you're-
there's an economic piece to this as well, and I'm not going to go into. That's part of the reason that I think the president wants to meet with him, and I'm not going to get ahead of their discussions. But I would suggest to you that there are multifaceted ways and areas in which not just the Philippines but other countries in the region can help play a role, both economically, diplomatically, and otherwise, to help deter the threat that they pose.
Are you suggesting, though, that they are trading or conducting some kind of
No, I'm not
financial
gonna- like I said,
When you say
I-
economic peace, that's what I just want to clarify.
Right, and again, I'm just going to let the president will have an opportunity to speak with him about those objectives. At this time, I'm not going to get ahead of that discussion. Glenn.
Sean, two quick related questions. First of all, you just described Kim Jong-un as somebody who led his country forward at an early age. The president has invited Duterte, who, as Annie pointed out, has talked about assassinating journalists. The president put out a statement after Erdogan won his referendum, congratulating him. He said kind things about Putin during the campaign, said kind things about Saddam Hussein. Does the president have a thing with these totalitarian leaders? Does he admire something about the way these guys conduct themselves?
No, the president, clearly, as I've said, understands the threat that North Korea poses. Having someone with the potential nuclear capability to strike another country, and potentially our country at some point in the future, is something the president takes very seriously. And so the idea that he is doing everything diplomatically, economically, and militarily to consider every way to prevent that threat from taking on the United States is something. I understand. Unfortunately, those are the neighbors. There's certain things. Those are the countries in the region. Those are the countries that can be helpful as we move forward to try to prevent the threat that they pose. Go ahead.
Wait, one follow-up question. On Sunday, Chief of Staff Priebus, talking to this gentleman right here, said, with respect to the libel laws and the First Amendment, quote, talking about news outlets that printed false articles, quote, I think it's something that we've looked at. How that gets executed or whether that goes anywhere is a different story. Is that a project that is currently being worked on by the council's office? Can you just tell me the status of that? Who is pursuing that?
I think the Chief of Staff made it very clear that that is something that is being looked into substantively and then both logistically how it would happen. But that's nothing new. It's something the president talked about on the campaign trail.
Is the council actually
I'm not,
investigating
I
this?
will not go into, but I just tell you that
Sean, two questions. One on, just to clarify on North Korea, were those conditions that you laid out to the earlier question, are those the conditions that would have to be met before there was any meeting, i.e. that North Korea would have to agree to totally disarm its nuclear program, stop threatening their neighbors? Are those the conditions?
I think those are some of the conditions. There's going to be a whole host of ones that we determine, that the State Department determines in consultation with the president that have to be met. As I mentioned, we are so early into this process that I don't see this happening anytime soon. But I think that, as the president, like I said, under the right circumstances, those circumstances aren't present today. and there would have to be significant change for that to even be a possibility.
Okay, and a question on a separate subject. The chief executives of United Airlines will be on the Hill tomorrow. Is the president at all, does the president think that Congress should pass any laws after the incident last month where the passenger was dragged off? Should there be more done to protect passengers on airplanes from those type of incidents?
I think there's two things. One is I think the industries probably need to, and have said that they've taken a look at how they're handling a number of issues within that, both in terms of compensation, how they're handling passengers who are on planes. So there's an industry component, and then I'll leave it up to Congress to decide whether or not it's appropriate to address it legislatively. Once there was a piece of legislation, then we could, we would have an opportunity to weigh in that. Cecilia.
I just want to ask you to clarify something else the president said. He said, "I don't stand by anything." How is the American public supposed to digest that, supposed to trust what the president says when he himself says of his own comments, "I don't stand by anything"?
What are you referring to?
It's in the CBS interview with John Dickerson in the Oval Office.
I need the more context.
It was about wiretapping. He was asked to, if he still believes President Obama is a bad or evil guy. Do you still stand by those comments? And the president said, "I don't stand by anything."
No, that was a long back and forth exchange, and that's why I'm asking for the context. But I think the point is he clearly stands by that. That's something that he made very clear if you look at the entire back and forth.
Sean, two questions on the Philippines. First, is President Trump comfortable with leaders' support of extrajudicial killings of drug users in the country?
Obviously, there's a human rights component that goes into all of this. And so it's a balance. We want to make sure that our country, our people are protected. This isn't a simple yes or no kind of situation. You've got a country in North Korea that possesses a nuclear weapon and is looking for the appropriate delivery system to potentially do harm. I think the president recognizes that the number one priority is the protection of our people, the safety of our people, and the safety of the people in the region. And so it's not just a question of either or. It's a question of priorities and balance. There's a lot that the president talks to these leaders in private about. And I think you saw that case in Egypt, where sometimes that kind of diplomacy, privately talking about them and building a relationship, can achieve results, not just for our people, but for their people, and discussing how the human rights issues. But I think that it would be a mistake to assume that the president, because we don't put out statements publicly chastising leaders at every call, means that the president's not. Hold on, let me answer the question. I think the president understands the value of it, but he understands the balance. And the reason that the president is building an effective coalition and is getting results around the globe and reasserting America's place is because he understands the type of diplomacy and the type of negotiating and the type of deal making that actually gets real results for our country. So I think it's not a balancing, it's a balancing act, but the president's getting real results. Cheryl.
Second question, if you don't mind. Okay. Looking at, there are three open patents with the Philippines government, one from Trump trying to get Trump patented, two from Ivanka Trump for her clothing line. How do you respond to concerns about potential conflicts of interest with the leader of the Philippines?
I think the president and Ivanka have done everything in compliance, made it very clear, and I would refer you to the Trump Organization. Cheryl.
I want to clarify something you said to Zeke. Is there a possibility that the president would not sign this spending agreement?
No, I mean, he's very pleased with the priorities, but I just want to, let's wait till it's presented to him. But he is obviously very pleased with how his priorities were addressed in the CR, and I have every expectation that he would sign it. But let's just let's wait till it's on his desk.
Are you still on track to issue the full fiscal year 18 budget? Is it mid-May, or do you have a date for that?
I'll tell you about my understanding was it was still mid-May, but I'd want to consult with Director Mulvaney first. Jim.
Thanks, Sean. Just wanted to first ask, what's your expectation and what's your hope for the meeting with President Abbas on Wednesday? And secondly, is the president still considering moving the U.S. Embassy to Georgia, and will that be discussed?
That is still being discussed by staff. And then what was this first question? I'm sorry.
The first question is your expectations going forward. What
Obviously,
do you hope from this
the
meeting?
president's
Do you think
ultimate
it'll
goal
move forward?
is to establish peace in the region. And so I think he's going to, that's obviously the goal and the discussion that he's going to have with the head of the Palestinian Authority. But there's, that's going to be a relationship that he continues to work on and build with the ultimate goal that there's peace in that region between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. Alexis.
follow up on infrastructure. The president has been talking about a major infrastructure package for more than a year in the campaign, but it doesn't seem very clear right now what the mechanism is for the construction of whatever it is that he wants to push forward. He talked about maybe attaching it to the reconciliation package for healthcare. He talked about maybe doing that with the tax package. Can you update us on, is that still very preliminary in its invention? Does he have clear ideas? And what's the mechanism and timing to get that done?
I think he does. He's been working on that with his both economic and policy team. But this week we're a little busy with the CR and healthcare. He laid out the tax package last week, but it is clearly still up there on the priority list. Let's get through this week, and then hopefully have some additional details moving forward. But he has been very clear that that infrastructure package is something that he wants to get done and get moving. This year, yeah, oh, absolutely. And it's just a question of when he wants to announce it. But I think for this week, we're pretty focused on getting the government funded for the last 5 months of 2017 and getting health care done as soon as we can. So with that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Thank you.
What about the promise about civil war?
We are back here at Right Side Broadcasting Studios. That was the Sean Spicer White House briefing. This is the post show. Thank you for joining us today. By the way, pre-show, we came on a little later than usual today for various technical reasons, which I don't have to get into. But just know that every time we cover the Sean Spicer briefing, every day of the week that he does a briefing, we will cover it live here. We do a pre-show and the post show. Pre-show usually starts around 45 minutes before the briefing, so be sure to check it out. Also, thank you to everybody who donated this weekend to us at the President Trump rally. I'm sorry, when we went to the briefing, I said, let's go to the rally instead of let's go to the briefing today. But we were at the rally this weekend in Pennsylvania. We had a great time covering it. If you haven't watched our coverage, I hope you can check it out at Right Side on YouTube. And we went out, we spent a number of hours going around front of the line, middle of the line, back of the line, interviewing people at various parts of the line. We went and interviewed the crowd at various places. We talked to the people selling the merchandise. We showed you what was being sold there and gave you just blanket coverage of the rally. So if you're interested and you haven't checked it out, even, you might have seen President Trump's speech, but you haven't seen the whole rally until you've seen our whole coverage. So check out our coverage, Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube. And if you enjoy our coverage of the rallies, I think we cover it in a way the mainstream media does not cover it, and you enjoy our coverage of the briefings. We do pre-shows and post-shows, and if you enjoy our coverage of breaking news, I hope you consider donating to us, because we really do rely on your donations to stay on the air. We couldn't stay on the air without you. We don't take donations from big donors, big institutional donors who would want to control what we have to say. We want to be independent for you. So if you'd like to donate, you can either go to rsbn.tv/donate. That's rsbn.tv/donate. Or if you want to donate once a month and get stuff in return, get Right Side freebies like hats and pens and all kinds of cool stuff, go to www.patreon.com/rsbn. Patreon is Patreon. www.patreon.com/rsbn, and you'll see how to become a regular patron. Also, you can donate by clicking the $sign on YouTube at the bottom of the chat window. And hi, moderators. Hi, how are you? Thank you for moderating the chat today. We really appreciate it. So let's talk about some of the things Sean Spicer talked about today, and I really want to get your feedback. We're very interactive here at Right Side. So write in. Let me know what you thought about the stuff Sean Spicer talked about today, the different issues he was bringing up and being asked about. If you want to write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER, you can direct message me there or email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. I already got a few messages I want to get to. Keck wrote in, it should be referred to as the Obamacare because the bill is an economic time bomb made to force us into single payer. So you think Obamacare, Keck, should be referred to as Obamacare because it's a time bomb designed to fail and force us into single-payer health care. Thank you, Keck, for sharing your view. Oh, and we just got a donation from Lynn Jean for $5. Thank you, Lynn Jean. Lynn Jean, moderator, and also Lynn Jean came up to us and said hi at the rally. It was very nice of her to say hi. We got to meet Lynn Jean in person. So Lynn Jean, it was great seeing you at the rally. Thank you so much for donating. Much appreciated. And if you're at the rally, like Lynn Jean was at the rally in Pennsylvania, if you're at a future rally, we love meeting Right Side viewers at the rally. We met a bunch of you at the rally in Pennsylvania. So please, don't be shy. Come and say hi to us. We'd love to meet you. Thanks again, Lynn Jean. CMK wrote in, loved the rally coverage. I shared the live stream on Facebook. Oh, thank you, CMK. Trump should do at least one per week. I'm also happy you did not cover the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Thank you, CMK. Very nice of you to say. We had really a lot of fun covering it for you, and it's great. You know, thanks to your support, we can go cover them. And also, you know, when we go cover the rallies, we do like chats at night. We did a post show after. Well, we did a post show in the arena after the rally, where I was going around on like my phone and showing different parts of the arena. And then we did a late night chat after that night back at our Airbnb house. So it's really fun for us to cover them for you. So thank you to all for all of your support. That lets us cover them. And thank you for watching. I mean, we got a lot of viewers watching the rally, so really appreciate you watching. Oh, and sharing. If you want to help Right Side, another way to do it is to share our videos on Facebook when you're watching them there, because that lets people know about them. And also, tell your friends about us. We're not a big company. We can't afford to advertise Right Side. So we really rely on you guys to just spread it by word of mouth. So feel free to tell a friend about Right Side. We would really appreciate it. And Norway donated $5. Norway, thank you so much. Now, Norway, I am really impressed you donated $5 because you got temporarily banned from the chat room this weekend. And let me just add, that was a complete mistake. Norway is a fantastic fan of Right Side and viewer, and he frequent contributor. So thank you, Norway. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. So, and Norway we had a funny incident happen where Norway got banned by Liz accidentally this weekend. I think that was on Saturday night, the post-show wrap-up chat, and you can find that on YouTube. We're sitting on a couch, so you can see that there. So thank you, Norway, very much. And also, Roger Vega, moderator Roger, donated $5. Thank you so much, Roger. Very much appreciated. That's really nice of all of you. Wow, thank you. I give you all a shout out because that's really nice of you. So your donations let us do this. We never forget it. We really appreciate it. Okay, so Andrew Sova writes in. Oh, Mid-American donated. This is so nice of all of you. My heart is warm with thanks. I mean, we were also thankful this weekend with all your donations, and it's so amazing of you to keep supporting us. Mid-American donated $5. Thank you, Mid-American. Andrew Silver writes in, the link by, Andrew, you said, laugh out loud, you said we're going to a rally before the Spicer briefing, which I did by accident. So many great things are happening with Donald Trump's presidency. Just ignore anything and everything the mainstream media has to say. By the way, check this out. You sent me a link, and you say this link implies that a good portion of Antifa members will be facing major charges. Other sites say they're facing up to 10 years in prison. I'll check this out later. I had heard, I got to read the story. I had seen this headline about that there were Antifa protesters who were facing charges for Inauguration Day rioting, and maybe it took a while. This is an article from CBS News. It says most of the approximately 230 protesters arrested on Inauguration Day will be charged with felony rioting, federal prosecutors said. The Attorney's office said the offense is punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. Oh, I'm sorry, before I continue that, Post Slam Last, Jake? Yes. Post Slam Last donated $5. Thank you, Post Slam Last. Very kind of you all to donate today. That's really nice of you. Thank you. Once again, your support keeps us on the air, so we really appreciate it. Thank you, Post Slam Last. So, Andrew Sova sent me this story about the Inauguration Day protesters facing rioting charges, and I am happy they actually are doing this. You know, I don't care what side of of the political spectrum people are on. When people do riot and they, destroy things and for political reasons or for any other reason, it really bothers me when they don't get arrested, and I think it sends a really bad message out there. I just remember I'm still bothered by the fact that I have to look this up, but I do know that when Milo was going to speak at Berkeley last 4 or 5 months ago. I think it was December. And then there were the people protested, and then the speech got canceled. And then for an hour, these I think they were Antifa people. They were people all dressed in black. Kind of romped through Berkeley, like breaking stuff and like destroying ATMs, and it just didn't stop for an hour. And it said, no, where were the police? And it sends to me this terrible message to people that it's okay to break the law. It sends a message to business owners that we don't care about you. And it encourages other people to do that because they see that they won't get punished. And I would be saying the same thing if it was right-wing protesters. And so it's good to me to see people, when they do these protests and are destructive, to actually face charges. And I am all for it because I think it's good for society. Okay, thank you, Andrew, for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. So let me check and see if there were some other comments here, or make sure I'm all caught up. I think I'm all caught up for now. I want to talk about some of the things Sean Spicer said during his rally. Oh, another piece of news that came out during the rally, I'm sorry, that I wanted to... well, actually, this is just breaking now. BNO News reports Fox News co-president Bill Shine has resigned. Fox News co-president Bill Shine has resigned. Now, if you don't know who Bill Shine is, he was the co-president. He was the guy in charge of programming at Fox News. He was a big defender of Bill O'Reilly over the last couple of years. Also, he originally started working at Fox, working on Hannity and Combs. And from what my understanding of Bill Shine is, he is somebody who is like part of the old guard at Fox, and he's. I know Sean Hannity tweeted out something, I think last week, saying something like, if Bill Shine is in trouble, that's a really bad thing for. If something happens to Bill Shine at Fox, it's really bad for the network. He tweeted out something like that. Let me see if I can find the Hannity Bill Shine tweet, because I thought that was quite interesting. Yes. I'm sorry. You said, that's all one name, Jake? A viewer named My Wife Says I'm Crazy, Crazy Husband. That's the screen name. Donated $2. Thank you, My Wife Said... Okay, My Wife Says I'm Crazy, Crazy Husband. Thank you for your donation. Very much appreciated. I appreciate your very long screen name, too, the fact that it's long. I'm not sure what it means, but thank you for donating. And John P.S. Jake... John PS30 donated $10. Thank you, John PS30. I know you're a loyal Right Side viewer and donator, so thank you, John PS30. Oh, and we can take calls today, too. So if you want to call in and share your thoughts on any of the events going on that Sean Spicer talked about or that we're talking about today, 202-470-00... What is it, Jake? 492... What is it, Jake? I'm sorry? 49. It's been so long since I was back in the office. 202-470-0049 is our number. Would love to hear from you. Now, Bill Shine, so where is this? Did I get this? Did I find this Hannity tweet here? So Hannity tweeted on Thursday, somebody high up and inside Fox News is trying to get an innocent person fired. He was talking about Bill Shine, reportedly, by the Associated Press said. And he also said that if Shine is let go, that's the total end of the Fox News channel as we know it. But today, Bill Shine resigned, presumably under pressure there. I don't know if I don't know, but I'm guessing he didn't resign voluntarily, because I've been hearing rumors that he was going to be forced out. So Bill Shine, he was a big defender of Bill O'Reilly. He's close to Hannity. He resigned today. He was the co-president in charge of programming at Fox News. Do you think this signals a really big change at Fox News? So look, we have no more Bill O'Reilly at Fox News. We have no more Bill Shine. Megyn Kelly left. But there's been rumors out there that perhaps the sons of James Murdoch, the sons of Rupert Murdoch, James and Lachlan, who are very high up at Fox, perhaps want to rethink the network a bit, perhaps want to make it a little more moderate, a little less conservative. I've heard a bunch of worry expressed from various people who are fans of Fox News about that. What do you think about this? Are you worried about where Fox News is going, or do you think these are good changes for Fox News? We'd like to hear from you so let me know. Direct message me at @Lookner on Twitter, or email me at steve.lookner@rspn.tv, or give us a call, 202-470-0049. Oh, very nice. Music World just donated $20 to us. That's really nice of you guys. Thank you so much. That's really cool. I've been telling this story to let you know financially that we don't have lots of money and we really do rely on you for our support. You know, I just got back from covering the rally where I was covering it with Micah and Liz in Pennsylvania. We drove to Pennsylvania from Alabama, which might sound crazy, but we couldn't afford to fly to Alabama, to Pennsylvania from Alabama. We had to drive there. So we drove, we took 2 days to drive. And then yesterday, we drove all the way back in 1 day. And a part of that was because a big part of that is because we didn't want to spend money on a hotel we didn't have to spend because we don't have a lot of money here. So we got up in the morning and we switched off driving. We drove back 1 day from Pennsylvania to Alabama. So we don't have a lot of money here. We do our best to spend as little as we can and to cover, and we want to be able to cover as much as we can for you. So your support really lets us cover stuff, and we really appreciate it. Let's see here. Mid-American says, no way that Bill Shine went willingly. He was absolutely pushed out. Let's hope that Fox News. Let's hope that FBN, Fox Business News, doesn't go the way of Fox News. That's what Mid-American says. Speaking of Fox Business, we got a very nice shout out from Lou Dobbs of Fox Business during the rally. If you haven't seen it, Right Side Broadcasting retweeted this, so you can go to @RSB Network and see that, or go to Lou Dobbs' Twitter. But he posted out a link to our coverage of the rally. And that was really nice of him. And he said rsbn.tv in his tweet during the rally. So we're very grateful for Lou Dobbs for watching us and tweeting us out. Hold on, I need a little drink here. Okay, so we've been talking about so much. We haven't even talked about some of the things that Spicer talked about. Other things Spicer talked about. Oh, let me see. I think I have another message here. I want to get to it. Yes. Get Trump Elected writes in, did people start to leave the rally early? It looked like the floor started to clear before the end. This is a very good question, Get Trump Elected. Okay, a couple of things here. First of all, so the floor itself was not full. So because I remember I took a picture once from above and the floor was not full. But what I was told is that there's a certain I was told, and I haven't confirmed this yet, but I was told there was a certain capacity that arena can hold, and that they didn't let that the floor was only allowed to have so many people because there were already so many people in the arena as in itself, and that so I was told that they have to stop letting people in at a certain amount, either on the floor or total, because the arena has a certain fire marshal capacity. So the floor itself was, I don't know if it was ever full. So if you saw some gaps in the floor, one thing is that it might have just been that way from the beginning, but another thing is that it's possible they didn't let people in after a certain point. I'm not sure about that. In terms of the arena, I was looking around, so right at the start of the rally, I saw basically the whole arena was full, except there were like 2 or 3 rows at the really top of the arena, like this own little section, and there weren't people all the way around in those rows. But people really did fill up the seats all the way around. And actually, now that I think about it, you know, the floor was pretty full because I remember sitting in the press, we were in the press area, which is between us. There's the press area, and then between us and the president is the floor. And there were people backed right up to us. So let me say, a bit of a correction in that I do remember the floor being kind of full eventually. Now, did people leave early? Well, I did see some people walking out, I remember I went to use the bathroom once and saw a few people walking out, but it was certainly not a max exodus of people. I did not, when I looked up at the arena, see lines of people heading for the exits. But I do think invariably at these rallies, when you have thousands of people, there are a few people who go home early for whatever reason. And but it didn't feel to me like it was a max exodus of people. It felt like a few people were streaming out at certain points. And also, the rally, I think it started around 7:30, and President Trump, he actually gave a long speech. He spoke for more than an hour, as far as I think he spoke for an hour and 50 minutes or something like that. So, oh, cool. So my answer to your question is, that I did see a few people start leaving the rally early, but I don't think that, it didn't seem to me that it was like any kind of big rush to the exits at all. I did not notice that. And also, I've seen people leave early at other rallies just the same way I see people leave early at like baseball games and stuff. So at least in my view, it didn't seem like it was any kind of greater than normal, a few people leaving early. Now, I might be wrong about that, but that's just my take on what it was. But thank you for writing in Get Trump Elected. And also, let me also say, I was not actively writing down with a pen every time I heard somebody about the rally, so this is a very unscientific view of what it was. It's just from my looking around. We have a call, and then I have a couple more comments. We have a call. I think it's Ed on the line. Ed, where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling from Detroit, Michigan.
Great.
How are you?
Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. So what did you want to talk about today?
My pleasure. Actually, I wish you wouldn't have cut off the feed so fast, because you missed the best part. Right when you cut it off, Mike Cernovich was in the room, and he actually asked a question and said, "Why aren't you guys calling out Antifa?" And he said, "Why aren't the Democrats disavowing all of this violence? Why isn't anybody in this room asking Bernie Sanders to disavow Antifa?" And he literally just went off, and they were basically trying to block him from speaking, and he literally pretty much punked out the entire room, basically saying that they're all cowards and none of them wanted to cover the real news. And it was really interesting. You just, right when you cut it off, he started speaking, you could kind of hear him in the background, and then it cut off.
It's interesting. Ed, I appreciate you calling in and telling us about that, because I did hear a little bit of shouting at him as we were going live here, but I thought it was just like the reporters who were usually there. And you're saying that Cernovich was there, which I wasn't aware of, and he was shouting questions there. I'll have to go back and watch it because I'll have to go back online after we're done watching it. So, and I didn't even know that Cernovich was there today, because he's certainly not always at the briefings. Did you know he was going to be there, Ed?
Yes, yeah, I did. He was there Friday too when the helicopter landed, and he did his him and another reporter did sound check. But yeah, at the end you can when Sean says, "Okay, no more questions," Cernovich kept trying to ask a question, but the mainstream media just kept on blocking him. And then at the end, he just couldn't take it. And he was like, "Why aren't any of you reporting on Antifa? When are you going to start, getting the Democrats to disavow?" It was truly amazing.
So Ed, to clarify, was he shouting this at the reporters, the media, or at Spicer?
Well, at first he tried to ask Spicer 3 or 4 times, but the mainstream media kept on blocking him. You could see that they were just trying to talk over him. And then literally at the end, when he didn't get called and Sean said, he was walking out, Sean was just like, "None of you guys are reporting on this." And I know he had gotten Sean's attention. And literally the media was like, they were all looking down on him. And then he walked out and said, it's like a high school clique in here. They were all blocking me. We could all tell we were all watching live. It was amazing. He was like, "None of you guys are covering the real story. Why are we letting fascism happen in America?" It was literally fantastic.
I will have to go back and watch the rally at the end of it and check it out. That's really nice of you to call in and let us know that, and let our viewers know that, Ed. And usually we try to go to the post show right after the rally, and normally there's not something like that right after the briefing, and normally there's not something like that happens. So I apologize that we missed that today. But now I will say this also. You say the reporters were blocking them, which might have been the case, but also the reporters generally are just shouting so much just to try to get their questions in. So I have no idea if it was an intentional blocking of Cernovich or just an unintentional drowning out when they were all shouting, but I'll have to watch it and check it out. But it sounds like a really interesting thing that happened. So, and I think it's good. Look, I was also going to add, before we go back to you, Ed, that I think it's great. Sean Spicer might not have called on Cernovich today, but we've seen Lucian from Gateway Pundit has been in that room, and I guess Mike Cernovich has now been in that room a couple times. And the more different voices I think there, the better. So I find that encouraging that we're seeing some other voices in that room. So that's cool. I'm sorry, Ed, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, that was all. You guys always do a great job. Been following you guys a long time, from literally day one. Watched every single rally. And you guys, fantastic over there.
Thank you so much, Ed. Appreciate and really appreciate you watching. And thank you so much for the news tip, sharing it with us. And I will check it out after I get off the air.
You got it. Thank you, young man.
Thanks, Ed. Have a good one. Bye-bye. That was Ed. According to Ed, Mike Cernovich was in the room, and according to Ed, Mike Cernovich shouted some questions about Antifa at the end of the briefing. I will need to go and check this out myself. Feel free, you can go and check it out yourself as well. And I'm wondering, I'm not sure on the right side feed, we'll have to see if you can see it on that feed, because I did hear a little bit of it, so I'll have to check on the right side feed if you can see it. But Jake, is there any way you can tell if on our feed...
Okay, I'm going to jump into the mic here.
Okay,
I believe they... Oh, I might want to turn down. I'm pretty loud. I think they cut the feed actually before we were able to see that. So you would have probably only seen that at the mainstream media.
So you know what it might have been, Jake, is I think because we're using the White House feed, which we're allowed to do, but they might have cut it before then. But I was watching in here. I think I had CNN on in here, and CNN might have showed it. So I'll have to go watch a couple of the news channel feeds and see if I can find it out. So, or maybe Mike Cernovich will post it or something. So.
Yeah, if we get the clip, we'll definitely put it up.
And by the way, Jake, just the last couple sentences you said, I haven't really heard you in my ear. I'm hearing you through the door. So I don't know if that's because your mic is down or my.
It was me listening back.
I'm sorry, Jake? Okay, cool. Great. Thank you, Jake. So that's our producer, Jake Seals. Oh, Jake, can I also ask, so a number of our viewers that we talked to at the rally said they really enjoy your music. You're the one, Jake, who does the music like people hear when we cover a Donald Trump rally, and people are waiting for Trump to speak. We hear your guitar music being played, which is really great. And for Patreon, for some of our Patreon donors, you are going to be doing a concert for them. Is there an update about when that concert might be?
It should be this Saturday. I think we're going to announce that on the Patreon website to all the patrons that have qualified for that. It should be this Saturday, probably in the afternoon. We might get some feedback from people. If you're in the RSBN patron group, be looking for the announcement there, and also be sure to comment if that's a good time for you. I mean, the link will be available for you to watch afterwards, so it's not as if it's streamed and you miss it, then you miss it. You'll still have archive footage to that, so you won't have to worry about missing it. But another thing is too, RSBN moderator let me know that that Cernovich was periscoping this. So I guess you can find it on his Twitter page probably because the Periscope is there.
Oh, very neat. I had no idea that he was doing that. So yeah, so thanks for the heads up, both Jake and Ed, and letting us know. You could go to his Periscope page is where you'd probably go to see this, and you could check out his Periscope where he was at the White House. I wonder if he's allowed technically, if the media rules are that you're allowed to Periscope it. Because I've heard Spicer in the past say things to reporters like, don't live tweet the press briefing. So now maybe he did it anyway. It's not, and it wouldn't be against, I don't think it would be against the law. It would be just against media rules. I don't know. So that's another question I'm interested in. But thank you, Jake, and thank you, Ed, for calling in. And for those of you who are interested in seeing Jake's show or potentially donating and getting to see Jake's show as part of our Patreon benefits, go to www.patreon.com/RSBN. I got a couple more messages here I want to read. Thank you. By the way, thank you, Ed, for the call. If you want to call in today and talk to us, 202-470-0049. Norway writes in. Norway says, Bill Shine quitting at Fox News with an increasing left list. Bill Shine quitting Fox News. Oh, so I got it. I was getting a little confused by the punctuation. My fault. Norway, you said, Bill Shine quitting Fox News with an increasing left list and sinking fast is good news for RSBN. In times like these, when balanced channels are disappearing, increases the market shares that can be scored by innovative guys like Joe Seals and his great team. Now, let me say this, Norway. First of all, thank you for your donation. Second of all, thank you for writing in. Third of all, so I definitely think here at Right Side, we are sympathetic to President Trump. We know a lot of you are supportive of President Trump, and we followed President Trump throughout the campaign. But I don't want to suggest that we're not balanced, because we don't want to tell you what to think here. We feel like our job is to present all views and just present the news and the information as we have it and let you make up your minds. And if somebody wants to call in here and we've had people call in sometimes and say they're opposed to something President Trump did. Like somebody might call in and say, what was there was a recent thing. I mean, we've heard things on the travel ban. Well, I know the health care bill, the first health care bill that was proposed, people had different views on that. So we're open to hearing anything, and we're not going to like shout people down or anything here. So while we are, I think, much more open than a lot of the mainstream media to hearing from people who support President Trump and to exploring arguments for why President Trump's actions might be like actually justifiable, I don't want to say that we're not balanced, because I do think we're open-minded here and we really try to give all sides of viewing. So that's my little rant. It's not really a rant, my little speech about that. Oh, cool. So thank you, Norway, for writing in. Much appreciated. And sorry you were temporarily banned this weekend. Rocky Mike just donated $2. Thank you, Rocky Mike. Very nice of you. Are you Rocky Mike because you're in the Rockies? I don't know, but appreciate the donation. Thank you. And if you'd like to donate and help us out, you guys keep us on the air. We can't stay on the air without you. rsbn.tv/donate. That's rsbn.tv/donate. Or just click the $sign at the bottom of the chat room on YouTube. Click the $sign, makes it very easy to donate. Another message here from Greek god Janus. You missed the end. Cernovich punked out the fake news and called them out. Thank you, Greek god Janus. Ed, we just had a caller, Ed, who called in, and Ed told us the same thing. So yeah, and just to repeat what Jake said before, it's not our camera. We are allowed to use this feed from the live stream, but it's not our camera, so we can't control when the feed cuts out. So unfortunately, the feed cut out before this happened. I'm going to go watch it as soon as I get out of here. But from what we understand, you can go to Mike Cernovich's Periscope page and watch it there, because he was periscoping it. This is what I've heard. So check it out if you want to. Okay, let me get back here to my Twitter. And I still know we haven't yet had a chance to talk about some of the things Sean Spicer said we will, but I want to get to your comments first. Andrew Sova says, Cernovich is great at not following rules. Norway says, well, I am saying you are balanced, and this is an opportunity to take the market share when Fox News show seems to be slotting out of the balanced media market slot. I got you, Norway. So you were saying, like, unlike MSNBC and CNN, you think Fox News is balanced, but they seem to be kind of going a different way right now, maybe, and you think this is good for RSBN. Hopefully it is good. I mean, the more viewers, the better. We would love to have more viewers, and the more viewers we have, hopefully the more support we can get them and the more coverage we can bring to you. That's the goal here. So thanks, Norway. Let's see here. We have a message from Mid-American. Would RSBN be interested in joining with other right news outlets in aggregating programming to a new conservative network on TV? I mean, of course that's something we would be, well, of course, I shouldn't say of course, but because it might not be obvious. That is something in theory we'd be interested in, but you got to know the details of these things. And so, we have to sort of do all we can to financially stay on the air, because it costs money to do this stuff. And any way we could spread our programming would be great. But at the same time, if somebody said, like, you can be on our conservative network, but you can't, like, fundraise on your own, well, we might go out of business. So it would have to, the details would need to be worked out. But just so you know, Mid-American, we're constantly exploring other possibilities for getting our programming out there. And it's, so we're doing our best. We just recently started a channel on VidMe where we have to start uploading videos for it, which we will start doing soon. But we're also restricted by the amount of staff here. I mean, this is not a very big operation, as you probably can tell if you watch the Office Cam. So we try to do as much as we can and get it out there as much as we can while still maintaining our small staff and keeping our expenses down. But thank you, Mid-American, for the suggestion. Also, Mid-American says, I've heard talk of bringing a new network. Would love to see RSBN, OANN, Ben, Klavan, Cernovich, and Milo all have a voice on TV and online. So another issue here is, Milo, I think, is starting his own media network thing. OAN, they got kind of their own thing going on, so they might not want to partner with anyone. Maybe they're happy just kind of making their own money. I've heard rumors that, like, there's some big media people or big investors who might want to do some kind of Fox News like cable network with Bill O'Reilly, people like Bill O'Reilly, and maybe I'm losing my mind. I'm blanking. I'm having a total blank right now. I keep thinking of Catherine Timpf, but it's not Catherine Timpf. Jake, who am I thinking of? The Blaze. It's Tommy Lahren. Yeah. So people like that. So so that could happen too, but it can be kind of hard to get everybody together. So, to me, the more media stuff, the better, but it might end up being more splintered and having different groups on, kind of like what's on now. You have your CRTV, you have your The Blaze, so you have your InfoWars, so you have all these different things. But we're open. We're open to doing more things and getting our programming out there in any way possible. Let's see. Oh, I think, by the way, Greek God Janice, you just sent me the link to the Cernovich. You said Cernovich nails the mainstream media hard for not asking Democrats Sanders why they don't disavow Antifa. And you sent me a Periscope, so I will check that out later. Thank you, Greek God Janice, for sending this in. That'll save me the work of finding it. You sent it to me. I wonder, hold on a second. Let me do this. This gave me an idea, Greek God Janice. Hey, Jake. If it turns out, are we able to, can we just show the Periscope if we have it? All right, so legally we don't know if we can. All right, so we'll try to find that out. So my idea is, you sent me the link, Greek God Janice, we could show it here, but we don't want to do anything that's illegal or something. My thought would be that because Mike Cernovich doesn't get ad revenue directly off of Periscope, he wouldn't mind us giving him publicity, but we don't want to do anything he wouldn't want us to do that's not legal. So we won't show this right now, but we'll look into that kind of thing. So in the future, maybe we could show somebody's Periscope on the air. Thank you for writing that in, though. Okay, let me get back here. Let's talk about a few things that that Sean Spicer was asked about today in the briefing and some things he said. And to remind you, if you'd like to call in, you can call us in here. Share your thoughts on the stuff going on today, all of the news, 202-470-0049. I'd be especially interested in knowing what you think about this Bill Shine news that just came out that Fox News was firing its, the president of programming was resigning from Fox News, but I think he might have been forced out. What do you think about Fox News, where they're going right now? But any of the other issues going on today as well, you can call 202-470-0049 or write me at @Lookner on Twitter or direct message me write me there or email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. And speaking of which, I just should make sure I got to all your emails before I move on. Okay, I think we're good. No, we're not good. There's one I got to get to, which is good. Who writes this in? This is Samantha. Samantha Reed writes in, Mr. Lookner, on the TNTV YouTube channel, it has been announced, praise be to God, that Marine Le Pen has taken the lead. Oh, so you're talking about Samantha Reed, the French election. That's going to be on Sunday between the two candidates are Marine Le Pen, Emmanuel Macron. We will be having coverage live of the French election results. I'm guessing it'll be Sunday around 1 p.m. We'll post something about it on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at RSB Network to hear about that. You're saying you heard a channel that said Marine Le Pen had taken the lead in polling, I guess. I haven't seen this yet. I'll be on the lookout for it. The last numbers I saw last week were Macron had a sizable lead, but we'll keep an eye on it leading up to the election. And, we're looking forward to the election and seeing what happens in France. So thank you, Samantha Reed, for writing in and giving us your update that you saw. Okay, now let me get to... Oh, we have a message. Good. Sightless Seer writes in, I think the disruption at Fox News should have been expected after Ailes. I expect more changes. It definitely won't be what people are used to, but change is an opportunity as much as it can be a disruption. They have the opportunity to improve for the next era. The people are moving away from past types of medias, and I think all of them could benefit from new blood. Not just Fox. The next generation of media needs these changes in the fold. Look what happened to radio when television medias were becoming more prominent. It will be the same for television medias in the new era of internet medias. And it will come with its own set of challenges in the new era we will have to address as well. Thank you, Sightless Seer. So Sightless Seer, something you seem to be suggesting is that there's a possibility that there is change going on at Fox News, but it could be good change. And, one possibility you bring up is that maybe Fox News will have these changes, but it won't necessarily mean their political stance will change. It could just mean like the type of personalities they have on air will change, or the type of coverage they do might change a little bit. Their vibe might be a little different. So we'll see what happens. But I think that's a good point. to keep in mind that just because there's change at Fox News in terms of people there, and maybe people there who've been working there a long time, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to change their political stance. I mean, Tucker Carlson was brought in, and he certainly is not like a moderate, but we'll have to see what happens. So thank you, Seth Lucia, for sharing your view. Now I will get to some of the things Sean Spicer said. So, well, Sean Spicer was asked about President Trump's comments that he would be open to meeting Kim Jong-un. And what Sean Spicer said is he said, well, he's not saying we would meet him at this time. He said, clearly not at this time. And he said, we've got to see their provocative behavior ratchet down immediately. So President Trump did not say, I'm open to meeting him right now. Perhaps President Trump there puts that out as a carrot for Kim Jong-un. And he puts that out there so Kim Jong-un can say, I would love to be able to meet with the president. That would really legitimize me and in some way. And so maybe that would be a motivation for Kim Jong-un to ramp down the testing. I don't know, but there could be reasons, that kind of reason that President Trump puts this out there. But it doesn't sound like that meeting will happen anytime soon. So Rocky Mike just donated another $2. Thank you, Rocky Mike, so much. And he said, not from the mountains, he just loves Rocky movies. So that's why the name Rocky Mike is Rocky Mike in the chat room. Thank you so much, Rocky Mike. Your donations are very much appreciated. Thank you. Also, so getting back to Sean Spicer, what he was asked about today. What else did I write down here? So Sean Spicer was asked about President Trump inviting the president of the Philippines. I hope I'm getting, hold on one second. Let me just check one thing. I want to check one detail and make sure I'm getting this right before I say something wrong. So hold on 1 second here. This will take 2 seconds. Yes, okay. So Sean Spicer was asked if about President Trump's inviting the president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, to the White House. And this has gotten some criticism because Duterte has human rights activists complain about Duterte's record in office. They say that Duterte has killed a lot of people who would be arrested on drug charges. They say that he's actually just had a lot of extrajudicial killings of these people, like drug users or drug dealers. And there's been a bunch of stories in the media on that. Also, Duterte last year, there was a comment when he said that he would have the government assassinate journalists if they acted wrongly or badly or whatever. So there are some doubts about on the human rights front on Duterte's record. And Sean Spicer was asked, about President Trump inviting Duterte to the White House. And what Sean Spicer said is he said, look, and it's something we were talking about on the pre-show, sometimes these kind of things are what you need to do what's best for the U.S. and protect the U.S. interests. Is you might have to deal with other people who are, you are not people who totally agree with you on everything. And what he said is that we have to work with other countries in that region who can help us isolate North Korea, both diplomatically and economically. And the Philippines is one of those countries. So he said it's in the national interest of the U.S. in dealing with North Korea and trying to isolate them to have good relations with the Philippines. And he said President Trump's invite to Duterte to come to the White House should be seen as part of that. Oh, good. Okay, great. So we have Sandra on the line right now. Sandra, where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from Washington, D.C., the heart of the swamp.
Well, thank you for calling from Washington, D.C., Sandra. And what did you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I just wanted to voice my concerns about where the media is going. In light of people getting so excited about Cernovich, Posobiec, Milo. One of the things that really excited me about President Trump was that I felt that he innervated the Republican base by, to the contrary of what a lot of people thought, I thought he was less prejudiced than a lot of the other people who had run for the Republican Party before. So I was really happy to see him open it up to a lot of different races coming together. But then when I see some of these newer people coming up and presenting the news, I really worry about what kind of groups they might belong to. And I'll just come right out with it. I think they seem like they're more on the ethno side of things. They're coming from perhaps one particular race that they're particularly interested in. And what happened recently that really bothered me was this whole thing that this group, the /POL/, they say that they did this trick with the OK sign. And you see Cernovich and Milo and Posobiec doing this OK sign, and some people were saying that was the white supremacist sign, and then I started seeing kids do this sign. And whether it was white supremacist or whether it was what they said later explained was just a joke to trick the mainstream media into being triggered by white supremacy, they did admit that they seeded this white supremacist sign. Now, to me, that just makes me feel that I lack trust in them. When I think of the old-fashioned news type people, I think of people who are really impartial and people I can really trust, and people who are not playing games. Now, maybe that's something that newer people, younger people think is funny, but I become very uncomfortable. So my hesitancy as all of this goes up in the air, and I delight that new things are coming forward, new groups are coming forward to report the news. My worry is that as this breaks apart and comes back together again, there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to be having a perspective that is exactly the opposite of what I was hoping for the Republican Party. I was just, when it became reinvigorated under Trump, I thought, finally, maybe we have a chance that all different races can come together. And I worry that a few of those who are at the forefront of the news really have an objective that is quite contrary to that.
So, Sandra, I really appreciate you calling in, and I think you raise a point that's definitely worth considering. You say that, I think your general thought, where this comes from is, if I'm getting you right, is that you saw President Trump as someone different from like the normal Republican, and you really want, you think what the country needs now from a leader and from the country is like more unity. And I think you seem to be somebody, like a lot of people in the country, who react against the partisanship and people not getting along and both sides not being able to work with each other in Congress and things like that. And you saw President Trump as someone, as you said, he brought in some new constituencies that hadn't been with the Republicans in a while. For example, there are a lot of people who are union voters. I met them in Pennsylvania. I met a number of people in Pennsylvania. I met one guy who said, I'm a union voter, and me and my rank and file Pennsylvania union voters, a lot of us voted for Trump, and they're typical Democratic voters. And so President Trump did seem to have, as you said, a way to appeal to certain groups that hadn't been appealed to traditionally by the Republican Party. And you have a bit of a worry because there definitely has been an emergence of news outlets on both sides over the last few years that both sides like, people on the right might like, people like the Gateway Pundit, Mike Cernovich, and people on the left, you have your Huffington Post and stuff like that. And you're not saying those things shouldn't be allowed to publish, and you're all for new news sites and new voices. But your worry is, it sounds to me like your worry is in terms of President Trump. Perhaps it was with Mike Cernovich being allowed at the press briefing. You're a bit concerned that if President Trump aligns himself with news outlets that aren't seen as welcoming to like the other side, that might get in the way of him unifying the country. Is that kind of where you're going generally with this? Am I getting you right?
Maybe I was just too polite. I didn't mean, maybe I was just too polite in what I said, so I'll be a little bit more clear.
Okay.
To me, President Trump, even though a lot of other people didn't see it, I honestly thought when he ran for president that a lot of what he did for the Republican Party was he opened it up and invited Hispanics to come in and feel comfortable. Now, I know a lot of them didn't because of the wall issue, but he also invited a lot of blacks to come in and feel comfortable and give the Republican Party a second chance. He was the only president in recent history that who ran on the Republican side. And I'm really talking about the Republican Party. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm not talking about across the divide, Republican, Democrat. I'm talking about just the Republican Party. He was the first person to say, let me target African American neighborhoods for growth and for investment, out of the mouth of a Republican. And that excited me so much. What bothers me is that I worry now, apart from him, I don't think he's, I don't know, maybe some of the people who are presenting new viewpoints of news he feels dependent upon or something. I don't know about that. But there are just some people out there, the ones that I happen to mention, and I don't know if you happen to see this conversation on Twitter, but this group that is on Twitter and then it gets booted off and on Twitter and gets booted off, it's /POL/. That's what they usually tweet as. And there are a bunch of people who are swirling around that group. As I said, Milo, Cernovich, Posobiec, photos have been taken of them, and comments have been made on Twitter about the type of viewpoints that they have about the different races. And this POL group said they seeded these pictures all around the internet of these people making an OK sign. Maybe you saw these signs. Some people were saying there were people visiting the White House making this OK sign. But they said the OK sign isn't really an OK sign. It secretly means white supremacy. Now, if you just go and your listeners go and look that up, you'll quickly see exactly what I'm talking about. And my concern is just very simply what I said. As everything goes up in the air and it solidifies, I don't care who speaks. I think everybody should be able to speak. But I'm particularly concerned if the voices, the people who come to the forefront, end up being people who are secretly for white supremacy or white ethnocentricity, or, and I understand all the concerns. I really do. I wanted the wall built. I am for Western civilization. I think it's a wonderful thing in the world, Western civilization. I mean, we've had our problems, but I think we add more than we subtract. So I understand all the questions. I see what is happening in Europe, and I see how if they keep letting all these people in, it will look very different in the near future than it does today. There's no doubt. But
so let me say, Sandra, so I really appreciate your perspective, and I get better your concern now. And, so I won't say anything specific because I think, I think there's people on the right who might have, there's going to be people out there who have, racially, who have certain racial views. There are going to be people out here who are going to be white supremacists. But there are going to be other people out there, I've seen people on the right who were called white supremacists, and when I saw the material they put out, it didn't seem to be me to be white supremacists. But aside from any specific person and what their specific beliefs are and all that, there's a more general point you're making, which is that you believe that that you were hoping with President Trump that was somebody who could lead to a more inclusive Republican Party, and regardless of what the actual beliefs are, you're concerned that there is a perception of certain media groups who are becoming prominent personalities, that they are intolerant of other races, and that could be work against making the Republican Party more open. And I understand that, and we have to get off the air pretty soon, so I'm going to have to. I'll wrap this up. This call, unfortunately, we got to go pretty soon. So Sandra, but I'll wrap up by saying this. I think your view, it's an important thing to keep in mind, and it's a part of what you're getting at is a very tough line President Trump has to walk, because I think I agree with you that he does want the Republican Party to be inclusive, and that he was reaching out. He was trying to reach out to black voters and trying to reach out to minorities during the campaign, and he wants to do that, but there are certain constituents. It's hard for him to keep the various parts of the Republican Party happy, and we've seen this when he's been working on his healthcare legislation. We have healthcare legislation. It seems like anything that gets proposed, the conservatives like it, but the moderates don't, or the moderates like it, but the conservatives don't. And I do think a big challenge for President Trump's presidency will be, can he keep all the groups happy in the Republican Party and keep them united, and also expand the Republican Party so that, for Republicans' benefit, they can do better in elections in the future and stuff. But it's very challenging, and I think you're pointing out this media out there, which I think these new media groups you point out have been helpful for the Republicans in a lot of ways, and they're very popular. But you might think that some people on the left and some people in certain minority groups are turned off by that. So it's just another challenge President Trump has to deal with, and we'll see what happens. But I really appreciate you, Sandra, calling in and sharing your views on this, and it's a good perspective to have and a good point to keep in mind. So thank you very much for calling.
Well, as you said, you accept all views, and I appreciate you letting me share mine. You have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Sandra, very much. That was Sandra. So, Jake, I heard you in my ear. I believe we have to go soon. Could you... Yes, all right, so we have to go. So let me just sign off from here. And I just want to, before I sign off real quick, just make sure there's no one I'm ignoring. So real quick, John Stanton, you wrote in, it's response to caller's concern. You said, Steve Harvey says that Trump is keeping his promises to the black community. That is huge and counterbalances her concerns. Oh, so this was just a response to to Sandra, who just called in. You wanted to say that. So thank you, John, for writing in. Okay, we have to go now. Really appreciate all of your comments, your calls, your questions. Very interesting discussion today. And we do see frequently there are a lot of views. We get them on these shows and during our coverage from within the Republican Party. A lot of voices. And as I said before, a big challenge for President Trump as he moves forward is to address all these voices in the Republican Party and try to keep everybody happy. So in addition to keeping people in the country in general happy. And so we'll see what happens. We'll follow along as on his presidency. We look forward to covering it for you. And we will be back. If Sean Spicer does a briefing tomorrow, we'll be back covering that. If he does one any other time this week, we'll be covering that. We'll have our pre-show as usual. It starts about 45 minutes before the briefing. We'll do the post-show after like we did today. And any kind of breaking news, we'll jump back on the air for that. And Sunday, we'll be covering the French election. Timing on that, I'll let you know. We'll keep you posted. If you want to follow Right Side Broadcasting on Twitter, @RSB Network. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm @Lookner, @LOOKNER. Jake Seals, thank you for producing today. Jake is at Jacob RSBN Music. And subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the notifications bell when you subscribe so you get informed of all the videos. Oh, and thank you to the moderators for moderating the chat today. As always, doing a great job. And thank you to everybody who donated during the show today. Really, really appreciate it. You donors keep us on the air. We couldn't survive without you. If you'd like to donate, rsbn.tv, or if you want to make a recurring donation once a month and get free stuff for it and cool RSBN gear and stuff, go to www.patreon.com/RSBN, or you can always donate very easily by clicking the dollar below the YouTube chat. $sign, click the $sign. Okay, I'm Steve Lookner. This has been the post show for the briefing. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the briefing today. We will see you either tomorrow for the briefing or later today for breaking news. Who knows? We'll be seeing you very soon. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.